All right, so let's just pretend that Ukraine bombed Moscow in 2024. How would the world react? Let's just assume that Ukraine successfully bombed Moscow. How would the world react? Well, obviously there would be some people cheering in Ukraine, and Russia would be super pissed off. But what would the rest of the world do? Well, it depends on who you ask. You ask the Americans, and they'd probably say, good for Ukraine. You ask the Russians, and they'd probably say, oh no, bad for Ukraine. And you ask the Chinese, and they'd probably say, this is bad for business. You see, China has spent the last year trying to get Russia and Ukraine to end their war because it's bad for business. The war has made China's already difficult balancing act much more difficult. They need Russia to be an economic and military counterweight to the United States. But the war has distracted the Russian military and economy. And now China has had to spend billions of dollars supporting Russia. Now, before the war, China and Russia traded about $100 billion worth of goods. Today, that number is closer to $200 billion. And a bombed Moscow would make China look bad because it would show that even the most powerful military in the world can be vulnerable. Now, we don't know how China feels about Russia's war in Ukraine, but we do know that they want the war to end. Earlier this year, China brokered a deal between Russia and Ukraine to end the fighting. And when it comes to the bombing of Moscow, well, all we can do is speculate. If I had to guess, though, I would say that China would probably try to put the blame on the United States. After all, it was America who provoked Russia by supplying Ukraine with weapons. So maybe it was only a matter of time before someone got hurt. China could also point to America's support for Taiwan and say that the U.S. has started a similar conflict in the Pacific. The Chinese could then call for de-escalation and maybe even offer to broker a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. Of course, this is all just speculation. We don't really know how the Chinese government would react if Ukraine bombed Moscow. But one thing is for sure, they would not be happy about it. A bombed Moscow would make China look weak, and it would undermine their efforts to broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. So if you're Ukrainian, maybe don't hold your breath waiting for the Chinese to come to your rescue. So what do you think? How would the world react if Ukraine bombed Moscow? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.